Now on Boost Your Business, we're going to show how hallways, aisles, and drinking fountains can be more accessible so they create more traffic flow to your place of business. To do this, we're going out on location with Max Gaines and hallway expert Eric Draven.
Thanks, Mary. I'm out here with Eric, who's going to explain some of the requirements needed for making hallways more accessible. So, welcome, Eric. Where do we start? What kind of requirements could a hallway possibly have?
Well, Max, let's start right here in the hallway. Hallway and corridor width requirements depend on the number of people using the area. Corridors and hallways serving an occupant load of more than 10 people in buildings such as businesses, churches, or schools, the minimum required width of the hallway corridor is 44 inches.
Okay, so what about any other requirements, like carpets and floors that might be slippery?
Great question, Max. So the other requirements for the interior path of travel are similar to the outside path of travel requirements. This includes slope, cross slope, and all floor surfaces must be stable, firm, and slip resistant, including carpets. Carpets must be securely attached. If a cushion type carpet is provided, it must be firm, the edges must be fastened to the floor and trimmed.
Fantastic requirements, but what about furniture that sticks out into walkways?
Objects with leading edges between 27 and 80 inches above the floor may stick out 4 inches into the path of travel, but they can't reduce the clear width. Same for objects with leading edges less than 27 inches above the floor. Freestanding objects with leading edges 27 to 80 inches above the floor may stick out into the path 12 inches, but still can't reduce the required clear width of the hallway amount.
Well, then how should signs be hung or installed?
The bottom edge of signs or banners that hang overhead must be at least 80 inches above the floor on an accessible route. If there is less than 80 inches clear headroom next to the accessible route, a cane detectable barrier is required within 27 inches of the floor.
Okay, well, I'm sure there must be some rules about tables and counter space, right?
Right you are, Max. In a building where there are built-in tables or counters, at least 5% of them must be accessible. To be accessible, the tops of tables and counters can vary from 28 inches to 34 inches from the floor or ground. There must be at least 27 inches of clear space underneath the table or counter. There must be a clear space of 30 inches by 48 inches. That clear space can extend up to 19 inches under the table or counter.
Great, Eric. I'm getting a little thirsty, by the way. Can you share some info on requirements for drinking fountains?
Sure, Max. In new construction, fountains must be placed completely within an alcove or not encroaching into the accessible route. If wing walls are placed on each side of an existing fountain, they must be at least 32 inches apart. The required clear space must be 30 inches by 48 inches perpendicular to the fountains. The height of the low drinking fountain is 36 inches to the height of the bubbler. If there are multiple fountains, at least 50% must be accessible.
Where must the fountains be located?
The drinking fountains must be on an accessible route and must be approachable from the front. Space underneath the fountain for people using a wheelchair at the fountain is 27 inches high and 9 inches high. The best way of providing drinking fountains in new construction is simply adding a high-low drinking fountain. Not only will a person in a wheelchair be able to use a fountain, someone with a back problem or using crutches can use a fountain too.
It's a lot of useful information, Eric. Thank you very much. Now we're going to go back to you, Mary, and it looks like you have a surprise guest yourself there in the studio.
Thanks, Max, and thank you, Eric. And yes, you are right. I have in the studio with me Tasha Toy, an expert on site accessibility. She's going to help me answer a letter from a viewer. Okay, this letter came after our last show on the Americans with Disabilities Act. Chantel in Lincoln, California writes, Mary, my small building is 60 years old. If I try to widen the hallway, the contractor told me I will have to tear down half of my store. Does the ADA want me to take that big of a financial hit just to create access? Let's go to our expert on that one. What do you say, Tasha?
Well, Chantel, the ADA was never written to create a financial hardship or to put someone out of business. That's why Title III of the ADA includes something called readily achievable barrier removal. There's too much here to explain in the time we have left in the show, but here's the basic idea. The readily achievable barrier removal process requires a business to make a list of all the accessibility barriers at their business, Then go through the list and remove all those barriers that can be fixed without a lot of difficulty or expense. If you still have barriers that have not been removed, create other ways you can provide your products and services to your customers with disabilities.
Thank you, Tasha. That's a great answer. I'm sure that answered a lot of questions for our viewers, too. Now take this information and go out there and make your place more accessible so you can boost your business. For more information on readily achievable barrier removal, go to www.ada.gov and click on ADA Business Connection. To talk to an ADA specialist, call their toll-free number at 800-514-0301.
If you have further questions on accessibility, email Disability Access Services at dasinfo@dor.ca.gov or call 916-558-5755.